Hello everyone, and welcome back to another round of 3-star Rift clears. This is the second episode of the Psi clears, and if you missed the last one, make sure you go back and check it out. We also cleared out all of the Gamma clears as well. In today's video, we will be focusing on 5 rifts, and those ones will be the ones as indicated by the map on the screen. Here with the arrows, the green arrows are the ones that we've checked out previously. So make sure you slap a like on the video if you're enjoying this series, comment down below and let me know what rifts you're currently working on, as we will be doing a 3-star tutorial for each of these rifts as we continue forward. But until then, let's go ahead and jump into the rifts of today's video. Now the first rift that we want to take into consideration is the level 29 Extreme trial, where we need to defeat Ultron. And this battle does have a quirk. It's similar to some quirks that we've seen in other battles before, where we need to prioritize our extreme gauges as they deal increased damage to the opponents that we'll be facing off against. It also charges the extreme gauge a lot quicker, so you can rattle these attacks off fairly quickly. Now, there are a few additional criteria that you need to keep in mind. That includes clearing out this trial without having any of your teammates incapacitated, as well as finishing in under 1 minute and 45 seconds. But with those extreme attacks and how quickly you can cycle them through, you should be able to meet this in a pretty reasonable time frame. Now this is basically, in terms of how it's oriented, exactly the same as what you would expect from the main story quest, and really the only additional thing that you need to be aware of is our characters will gain their extreme gauges a lot quicker. So get used to using those attacks and discovering the direction in which their influence is increased. Now, we do manage to burst down Ultron's stagger bar here, but we don't have enough to... we don't have our extreme gauges charged in order to take him on straight away. So we go ahead and just burn one of our team members' extreme attacks to help burn down some of his extreme gauge, or his stagger bar, and that allows us to progress to the stage of the next fight. Now, his attacks aren't souped up and don't deal extra damage. It's really just more of the time constraint that you need to be aware of. And the biggest thing is you want to try and prioritize attacking Ultron while he has his stagger bar down, because that's when you're going to get in the most efficient damage against Ultron. And as you can see here, with our second use of our extreme attacks against him as a team, we've got him down into the last phase of this fight. Now this phase, you've got to be aware of this large energy charge that he has, as it will disorient your characters and make them dash around in altered trajectory paths. But we've already got our extreme attacks back online by the time the Ultron sentries there have self-destructed. And with any luck, we will be able to finish out this fight with one final use of everyone's extreme attack, as they are quite potent, quite far-reaching, and that does allow us the 3-star clear. Now the second rift of today's video is the level 30 countdown in the Dark Dimension. These are some of my favorite rifts because they have a very fun mechanic that is added to the gameplay. To clear this one out specifically, we need to obtain a thrown object damage total equaling 100,000 damage or more, as well as have a minute or more on the clock remaining. But that last one is pretty simple as long as you prioritize the large area of effect type attacks. And there are a couple of enemies that show up in this rift that make this a little bit easier, especially when it comes to getting in the thrown damage item. So as you'll see here, we actually start without any enemies in range, but there are a couple of these members of Thanos' army. The name is escaping me for the time being, but you can throw some of the lighter ones over the edge for some easy takedowns, and even if you don't, you can burn them down pretty efficiently. Now, another enemy that shows up here that's not typical is this Sentinel, and with Gambit, I honestly think that using his staff attack and then his deadly deal attack as well are pretty efficient at burning down these opponents in these fighters. Now the nice thing about having these Sentinels present is anytime they die, they drop their energy core, and that energy core is a very potent long-range distance attack. I mean, you saw there we got 66,000 damage on just one use of that core. So you use one of those once or twice, especially against another Sentinel, and you've already got your 100,000 plus damage cap met. Now we have a couple more of these Sentinels showing up here, so I prioritize a few more of the attacks with Gambit as he burns through their stagger gauge pretty efficiently. You want to be pretty familiar with rolling around for a lot of these opponents and burning them down. But as you see here, the Deadly Deal does get us through that Sentinel very quickly, and a throw of this energy core to the other Sentinel takes him down very quickly as well. Now, in order to get through that other portal, we do need to prioritize this crystal here. Honestly, I probably could have brought that energy core up to burn it down a little bit quicker, but we do end up gaining time back onto our timer as we defeat those cores and unlock the rifts as well. So let's go through this portal over here after taking out the little mindless one grunt over here in the corner, and that will spawn us right next to the other core that we need to break down the other barrier. Yeah, we have a couple of grunts that show up. I mean, they're pretty weak, so any of your stronger attacks will take them out. And with this barrier down and out of the way, we do have our 1 minute over the timer taken care of, though time is continuing to tick. And we will be able to continue through and take down some of these bigger and tougher enemies, which should keep us around that time frame, if not above it. But as long as you're efficient with your team attacks, you can burn these characters down very quickly and very efficiently. And with the use of this core here, we've got the other Sentinel completely burned down, and we can bring this last core with us into this final area of the battle. Though, if I'm not mistaken, I think I do get surprised and actually end up dropping it before I really wanted to. Yeah, I got caught in the other Miles's electroweb attack as we were trying to get closer to him and use that attack to our benefit. Now we get one of the energy cores taken down here, and with the Venom shock from Miles, we've burned down a lot of these characters very succinctly, and the Venom Strike takes out those cores very nicely, which is nice because they just limit the amount of area of effect, that type attacks that you have to end up dealing with. Now, we're well ahead of our 1 minute time crunch criteria here due to the strong opponents that show up. And we've just got Spider-Gwen to burst down at this point, and then that final energy core over in the corner, and that will be exactly what we need. As a matter of fact, we don't even need the energy core. We just needed to defeat Gwenpool, and we actually finished that with over 2 minutes on that timer, easily meeting our criteria. So the third rift that we'll be looking at today is a level 31 survival rift, and we do have another one of these survival rifts that comes up immediately hereafter. These ones can be a bit tricky, but once you get the hang of them, you can blitz through them pretty succinctly. So with this one, we need to restore the security system, which is related to a couple of the terminals at Avengers Tower, specifically the second of the two floor puzzle rooms, as well as the one on the terrace before you go out to the helipad carrier. And for this one, you just need to finish in 2 minutes and 30 seconds or less, as well as have one or fewer teammates incapacitated during the course of your run, because newsflash, once you have a teammate down, if you do manage to lose one, you will not be able to revive them and get them back up off the ground. But as long as you keep your team attacks up and prioritize your synergy attacks, you should be fine with this one. So right off the bat, we've got our health bars draining. We need to activate this terminal so we can sneak through these doors. And I don't like how it backtracks you into this other room, but at the end of the day, it's not that big of a setback. So with Miles, I'm prioritizing a run or a beeline directly to the terminals here. I'm going to lay down some electro webs just so we can regain some of our health back. And the Venom Strikes are going to be exactly what we need to burst down this final sentinel here, and that will assure we don't take an excess of damage as we activate the first of the 2 terminals. And once we have this terminal activated, our walk back to the starting point is a little bit easier, but we've just got to make our way through the last couple pieces of this maze to get to the other terminal. And your teammates are pretty efficient at burning down the rest of the grunts on their own, but sometimes you do need to give them a little bit of a helping hand and encourage them to take down the opponents a little easier. A few more Venom Strikes will at least get this character off our back, and that will leave us wide open and ready to take down the second terminal. And we are struggling a little bit with Gambit. He's got his health a bit low, but we do gain some of our health back very nicely there. And I do see that Gambit's health is low, so I switch over to him at this point so I can prioritize getting him some attacks in this next area, because I don't want that to be the reason that we lose. So I go ahead and use an aerial attack just to get some of that damage started. And at this point, I'm starting to use some of my area of effect attacks, as they will burn down and regain the health a lot quicker. And from this point, we've got Gambit back up to an acceptable level, and we just need to clear out this last terminal to get this finished out. So with Gambit, I set up a couple of this dangerous ground traps. That will assure that I can regain about as much health as I'm losing as the damage is continuously dealt to the enemies. And just like that, we have the rift cleared out in under 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and without having lost a single team member. Now our 4th rift is another one of these survival style rifts. It's the exact same criteria or expectation as the last one, but the catch here is we need to earn a team score of 200,000 on this quest, as well as clear it out with 1 or fewer teammates being incapacitated. But as long as you focus on burning down the grunts that come into the fight, which you're going to want to do anyway to upkeep your health, you can pretty easily attain that score and do so in a manner that's relatively quick. So Sandman starts us off right off the bat here, and Wolverine just makes a beeline for Sandman, but we've really got to focus on getting the concrete cannons added up here so we can suppress him and get some actual meaningful damage in. Now, as long as you prioritize these types of attacks, you really don't have anything to worry about in terms of rebuilding your health back up. So I lay down as much covering fire, as much wide area of effect type attacks as I can here. As soon as he gets down to about a quarter of his health, we will have some prison grunts come into play. But I like to prioritize getting as much damage in on Sandman regardless of the prison inmates that show up, because we want to burn him down as quickly as possible, because that's the criteria for actually finishing out this quest. So with Miles, we get back over here on the concrete cannon, and shortly thereafter Thanos hooks up to the other one, and we just go back to town burning down his health bar. Now, he does send out a couple of attacks your way, which you need to be aware and conscious of, but as long as you anticipate them, because they're pretty drastically telegraphed, you can roll out of the way and get around them quite nicely. So we end up burning down Sandman to about a third of his health remaining, and with this next round, we should have all of our extreme attacks online, so we can just unleash those on Sandman and get the last portion of his health remaining taken out. Now, these type of areas Gambit does very well at excelling, because that overlay that he has with his dangerous ground just lays down a continuous stream of pretty significant damage to the grunts and allows them to be more succinctly burned down by the team attacks and the synergies that you can employ with the rest of the members of your crew. So we're just about to the point where we can focus on our concrete suppression cannons again, as soon as we get the last of these stronger grunts down. And as soon as we do, it's going to pretty much be curtains for this quest. So we've got one of them down, the second's just about to drop, and does with an aerial and quick follow-up combo. And we then burn down the last remaining enemy, because Sandman does deal some damage to his teammates as well. And from here, we just need to focus on getting the last of Sandman's stagger bar depleted, and that will allow us to focus on using our synergy attacks to get down the last bit of health that's remaining. So we roll out of the way of this sandstream for the last time, jump up right next to the opponent, and we get all of our synergy attacks unloaded. I was a bit concerned because I saw that there was a minimal amount of damage that was being dealt, but at the end of the day, we got it taken down, and we didn't lose a single teammate in the process, giving us the 3-star clear on this rift as well. Now the fifth and final rift that we'll be going over today is the Ultimate Rift. This one is a level 36 rift. It's named Kree Justice, which means that we of course have Ronan showing up, and we actually have 2 Nebula mini-bosses that pop up at the same time as well. And we just need to get all of them cleared out, and that will constitute a clear of this rift. Now the things you need to keep in mind is it has the same criteria as the other 2, where we need to get 1 or fewer teammate incapacitations over the course of this quest. However, this one does not have the caveat of not being able to revive an opponent, so it's not as dire, but you also shouldn't really ever be at the point where you're in danger of needing to revive one of your teammates. We also need to make sure we can get this rift taken down in 2 minutes and 15 seconds, but again, if you have a heavy hitting team with large area of effect attacks to keep up constant damage, you should be able to meet this threshold very simply. So Ronan starts off the fight, and it's just him with a couple of the mighty enemies, but they don't really pose too much of a threat. If anything, they just allow us to rebuild the MP gauge that we have and should be focusing on. So with Miles, I do end up using a lot of his Electroweb and his Venom Shock attacks, just because they do burn down these stagger bars very quickly and even deal a decent amount of damage to the opponent once they are vulnerable with their defenses down. Getting knocked around a little bit by Ronan, we've just got to keep up the constant stream of fire and attacks here to meet that time frame. And at this point, we get the opponent completely staggered out, and we just managed to get him into the second phase, which triggers a restock of the opponents, which we have to be concerned about. So as you'll see, we now have 2 versions of Nebula that we need to keep in mind, but as long as you dance around them, you really shouldn't have too much to worry about. We've switched over to Gambit to set up some more of the dangerous ground, as we can cover about a third of the attack floor and knock down the smaller grunts, so we only have to focus on the main 3 antagonists here. And at this point, I figure, well, we might as well throw out some of our extreme attacks, and that does allow us to take out 1 of the Nebulas. The other 2 characters get completely staggered out, and with Wolverine's Adamantium Assault, we just about have Ronan down to the rest of his health. Since he is the main boss, he's a lot tankier than the others, so I single out Nebula over here on the edge to get the last of that finished, and from here it's just a couple more Adamantium Assaults to get through to the remainder of Ronan's health. And we don't even need to finish out his stagger bar before he falls, giving us the 2 minute and 15 second clear, no teammate incapacitations, and the 3-star clear. Alright, so just like that, we have 10 of these 17 rifts cleared out, and that is showcased by the check marks which you see on your screen here. Next week we'll be taking on 4 of these rifts, and they will specifically be the 4 that are not character specific. So the following week we'll be doing the rift clears for Luke Cage, Gamora, and then that Magneto final trial at the end. So if you're enjoying this series, again, feel free to leave a like on the video. Don't forget to subscribe for all of the videos that I bring to you on basically a daily basis at this point. And thank you once again for watching and enjoying. Feel free to leave a comment, and you have yourself a fantastic rest of your day.